Hi everyone! So this tutorial is on the fabric pieces of my snow buddy Nidalee. To make the skirt, I measured how wide I wanted my piece to be in the front and in the back and how long I wanted it to be. I transferred these markings onto some paper and then draw the shape I liked onto the newspaper. Next, I used this as a pattern to cut it out my fabric. I used a thin jersey. Next, I measured some elastic around my hips and sewed this into a loop, and then I pinned the two side pieces, the front and the back, onto it. So make sure you stretch out your elastic when you do this. I marked on my fur fabric about 5 centimeters, and then I cut a strip long enough to fit around my hips, and then I cut it in the right shape. I put the right side of the fur to the inside of the skirt, so when I fold it over to the outside it will hide the elastic and the edges, and then I zigzag everything in place. I made a small pocket for my phone by taking some non-stress fabric a little longer and a little wider than my phone. Cut the same amount of fabric in my red fabric and then sew the sides closed, right sides together, and then just pin to the elastic and zigzag in place. For the top, I measure the lowest part and the highest part on my back where I want it, and then underneath my breast, the widest part of my breast, and over top, and then how long I wanted it to be, and I make a quick pattern for the back. And then for the front, but I made the front about 4 centimeters wider than I wanted it to be in the end, so I can make some princess seams. So after I cut this out of fabric, I sew the sides closed with a small zigzag stitch, and then I put it on my dress form so I can see where I want my seam to be in the front, and then I transfer these markings onto the other side as well. For the bottom, I didn't want to have a straight edge, so I just cut some squiggly shapes out of it. Next, I cut more fur, and for the middle I cut it at an angle so it will fit the sweetheart shape that I decided for my front. For the arms, I took a piece of newspaper and I measure how wide my arm is at the top, and then mark half of that width. Then I mark how long I want it and the width of my wrist, and again take half of that measurement. So when I fold this out, I have a pattern. I sew the side seam right sides together, again with a small zigzag stitch. Then I take more of the fur and sew this into a loop, and then sew the right side of the fur to the wrong side of my fabric. So again, when I fold it over to the right side, you don't see any ugly seams. For the green parts, I took an old t-shirt and just cut a strip off, which I put right sides together on my wrist and then zigzag with a small zigzag stitch. For the leg part, I took a piece of fur. I put this over my leg, the wrong side facing out. Then I just put pins all in the back seam and then sew it with a straight stitch. Next, I take a piece of elastic and put it right underneath my knee, and then I zigzag this to the good side of the fur and then fold it to the inside so you don't see the elastic. Next, I take the same t-shirt and cut some strips, which I put over top of the fur, pin in place, and then hand sew. Because this skirt is pretty short, I wanted to have some shorts underneath. So I cut open the crotch of the shorts I have because it was easier for me. And then I put this on the fabric and use it as a pattern. So I double up the fabric so I can have a front and a back. Then I pin the front crotch seam and the back crotch seam, and once I sew these closed with a small zigzag stitch, I pin together the side seams, which I also sew with a small zigzag. And lastly, I sew the crotch seam closed as well. Then I take more elastic with the width of my hips. I mark 4 equal spaces, so the middle front, the middle back, and the middle sides, and I line these up with the seams of the shorts, and then I sew all of this in place with a zigzag as well. Then I fold the elastic to the inside. Then I just used a straight stitch to sew right on those 4 seams, just so the elastic will stay down. And then I fold over the bottom edge a centimeter, and then again another centimeter, and I zigzag this in place to just the hem. Because my shorts were a little too long on the front, I took a needle and thread. I just hand sew a straight stitch on those front panels, and when I pull it up and make a knot, you won't see my shorts on the front. You can find more pictures of this costume on my Facebook and Instagram, and if you want to see more videos, you can subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching!